Hello, good morning, welcome everyone. I see you've already just started seeing the chat there. I wanted to thank you for taking the time out of your school day to coming along really to this last event of 2020. So thank you very much. I know most of you will probably be on countdown now and waiting till you all get to break up and actually have a bit of rest. So thank you again. Just a little bit of housekeeping. As you can see, unfortunately, I'm not with my colleagues in the office today. A last minute change of plans because I'm self-isolating, which I'm sure many of you have been too. So I'm beaming from my home, hoping that the internet stays on my side this morning. So we've got about an hour and a half. As I said, on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see the chat. So please keep chatting to each other in there. This is about you. It's a frog event, so it's all about sharing stories and ideas and anecdotes. There, in the middle section, there's also something called polls. Now we have set up a poll that will be going throughout this morning, and that is all about can we better serve you. So we've been putting events on around real world learning, sharing stories, ideas, anecdotes from around the world. We've been trying to do some little mini workshops. We've been putting out some training videos and some ribbits, but really we want to know for next year, what else can we do to make things better, to better support you, to find out what you need in either the school or the classroom. So please get involved in that poll, and there will be another one later. So the agenda today, in a moment I'm going to bring Graham Quince on stage, and Graham will be talking about the Frog Academy. So we launched the Frog Academy about 2.5 years ago, and we went all across the country, showing what we built out of Frog and how we could build solutions for you free of charge. If everybody wanted something, we put that together and give it out to everybody. So we want to give a quick reflection on that, and the section is called Now and Next. So that says it all. What have we done now and what is upcoming? So Graham will be talking to you there about that. After that, we have a meet, share and learn. So in traditional Frog style, we're going to be asking you to get involved with us, whether that be in the chat or whether you want to pop on stage for a quick couple of minutes to talk about things that you have been doing yourselves in school. Then we have Steve Holt, our Deputy MD, will be joining us to talk about something new. And then finally we will close. At that point there'll be a screen that pops up to say thank you all for attending. That said, there is then an optional session afterwards where Graham will be doing a online remote tutorial about building e-portfolios. Now, before Rebecca, our head of marketing, jumps on the channel, she will be wanting me to tell you that there is a little competition also going to take photographs from your seats, festive photographs, and we have got a little competition so you can win a Widget the Bear. And before we finish at 10:30, we will let you know who has submitted the best photograph there. So please take a snap and send it to us. Rebecca, if there's anything anybody needs to know about where we type that, just put that in the channel. So I would like to now hand over to Graham, if Graham is there. Hi,
Lizzie. Hi.
Oh.
I've tried to decorate this office area to sort of match, but I think you've outdone me with your Christmas tree.
Well, you see, I'm about to put these on and start taking my own festive photos because I don't have a Widget the Bear.
Yeah.
So if you see these, this is because I'm one by one, I'm taking festive photographs because I want to win. But that said, I am now going to disappear off the stage and hand over to you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to start sharing my screen. There we go. And when Lucy said, how much time do I want to talk about everything that we've been doing in the Frog Academy for the last 2 years, and I initially said 4 hours, I was told I could have 30 minutes. So I apologize, but I'm going to have to rattle through everything I've got to show you. Now, the Frog Academy started, as Lucy said, just over 2 years ago with the concept that we can, even though Frog is really simple, and even though in about 5 minutes you can assemble a lesson plan or an assignment and push that out, actually, if you start combining all the tools and features of Frog in different ways, you can come up with really quite complex solutions for different systems that are happening in school. And 2 years ago, we had several schools approach us, and we created an appraisal CPD and lesson observation system. We created a behavior management tool, an IT help desk, and digital planners. Now, several of them ended up using the ePortfolio tool to do that, but all of them was a case of taking the tools that you had in front of you and assembling them in these ways. And so what we decided to do was brand this as the Frog Academy. And we would take the approach that if you had an idea of something that could be achieved in Frog, provided it wasn't hitting the development and creating an entirely new programmable system, but instead something that you could build out of the front end, then we would work with you to achieve that. We'd get your school story around it. We'd tweak development if we needed to. We'd make it look really good, and we'd give it back to you for free, provided every other school who has Frog would be allowed to have it for free as well. And that's the Frog Academy. So we have all of these tools, and I'm going to spend the next 30 minutes giving you a glimpse of them all. One thing I will say is I'll just jump to this slide. If you want me to give you a proper tour, if you want me to come in, well, virtually come in at the moment and show you how these systems and solutions work and give you the stories that the schools are using them and tell you all that, then go to frogeducation.com/joinacademy. On there, you'll find a form you can fill in and complete. One of the things that became really apparent with the first 4 systems is generally the person running Frog in their school is not the person who would be running the appraisal system or handling behavior management or planners or anything like that. So actually what happened was that this gave us an opportunity to talk to other people in school. It wasn't therefore just the sort of the niche Frog product on the side, but instead became the whole school solution that you and I both know that's what it's always been about. So it's been a great way for us to expand and get into that. So I'm going to talk to you about the first 4 appraisals, the first 4 solutions quite briefly. Again, if you want to, you can go to that Frog Academy, frogeducation.com/joinacademy, and I will then arrange to talk to you about them in more detail. But the appraisal system started with Finham Park Trust. And they had 4 schools and they had 4 different methods of doing appraisals, and they knew that they could combine them into using Frog. They felt sure that they could develop a system that would work for everybody. And what we did is we took the ePortfolio system, which is what that workshop's going to be about later on, and we made a copy for every member of staff for their own appraisal system. And it meant that they had that control within Frog that only they and their manager could see. It was convenient because it was in Frog so that they could upload evidence throughout the year. So you weren't having to log into another system that once a month or once every year just before your review go and gather your evidence. If it was a paper-based system, it was working really well because instead of having to keep paper and assemble your evidence ahead of your reviews, you could simply upload it to Frog and forget about it until it was time. But you could also build in CPD training, and I mentioned using forms, or I mentioned lesson observations, and using forms for that gave you a centralized database of all the information that could be emailed out to the person who'd been observed too. But the big thing about the way appraisals was used, and this has now gone into, and I've lost count of the number of schools who've ended up taking on the appraisal system using Frog, is that they have complete control over the look, the layout, the terminology, the number of objectives, absolutely everything. And what that meant is I don't think I've gone into a single school using appraisals the way Finham Park Trust do. Everybody has taken the concept and adapted it and made changes. Some of them are almost unrecognizable from the Finham model, but it doesn't matter because it's theirs and they can control it. And that's the real appeal of an appraisal system within Frog. This next one was about behavior management, and Adrian Tater-Gosforth was the first to mention what he was doing using Frog for this, because this is the other thing. It was a two-way street. It's not us designing solutions and giving them out. It always started with a school idea. And we started with this concept of making it really simple and easy with an incident reporting form to report an incident, to have the teacher fill that out, potentially on a mobile phone, breaking up a fight in the car park, that sort of thing. And then it would email off to the heads of year and so on, and whoever you needed it to do. But it gave you that record and that tracking tool all within Frog, making it very easy to control who had access. But then we spoke to several other schools, and they were talking to us about the concept of a detention register. So again, using a Frog form, you can identify a student. This is where we added some development. So using the user picker field came from this system. So you can search for a student, and you can then tag it so that therefore you can run reports, but you can book them in for a detention. But then it serves as a register where you can say, did they attend? The isolation unit then it came out from that system too. And the school I used to work at had an isolation unit. They're an unfortunate reality for schools, possibly not this year, or certainly it's come up to mean something different. But the isolation unit meant that teachers had a space where they could upload work to, and you could have an audit trail of the work set for students, how they were during the day, and exit interviews, all built in one place. So instead of having either something on paper or in some cases nothing at all, you now had that record that isolation units are criticized for not having, all built in. And then we also added in from, again, a couple of other school ideas, student records and the ability to have a private e-portfolio space where you could have all the information, all the letters, anything at all about individual students. You could have all there, very easy to access for teachers and impossible to view by students because using the sharing and the standard tools within Frog. On the other side of all that, away from behavior management inside, there was the concept of digital planners. And the Abbey School helped us with this idea. They had a very large digital planner. They had a very large paper planner, that cost them thousands of pounds to print out. And as we spoke to other schools, we realized that they were in the same boat, that these grandiose publishing affairs were actually taking a lot of time to prepare. They all had to be ready very early on in the academic year to get printed in order to be ready for September, and they barely lasted the 9 months of school. So the beauty about a digital planner is that you could keep it updated. You could add in school information whenever you needed to. You could have electronic forms collecting things like homeschool agreements. You could obviously put the timetable and the homework in there, and it all collapsed down really nicely on a mobile. So again, it was very easy for children to view. But it also gave their parents direct access to the digital planner too, because we'll talk about this later on in the workshop, but that's what e-portfolios can do. They can give you that access. You can say parents can have access, children can have read access, and staff can have write access, and you can choose to do that. Now, the schools involved in helping us put this together gave us these huge documents of all that school information that goes at the front of a planner. Everything like, as you can see on here, a positive attitudes page. And that worked really very well inside Frog, because instead of having to prepare it and then send it to the printers and wait 6 months for it to be ready, you could update it whenever you needed to. So the beauty about it is you could start with a few pages and then you could add another and another and so on. And again, the digital planners that I've seen being used in our schools, everybody has taken them and done them in different ways. And there's some really quite creative and imaginative uses, and we've already evolved it. So like I say, get in touch if you'd like to see that in more detail. The last original Academy product we launched was the IT help desk. Now, this was a really interesting concept, and a lot of these systems, like the behavior tool, like the appraisal system with ePortfolios, they show you how to use what Frog has already in lots of various different ways. And what I sort of say is, even if you're not interested in the IT support desk, you should take a look at it, because it'll show you how to use forms to the max. And that sounds a little Jeremy Clarkson, but it's true. Because at the heart of it is a simple form where a member of staff can fill in that they've got a problem in their room. They submit that request, it emails IT support, but it also goes in as a ticketing system. So the staff can see their tickets, and they can double click and they can view them thanks to the data viewer widget. But then admins can have more control and can see the same information, but across the whole school. And then you can have notice boards and tutorials and so on and so on. And it gives you, because it's also going in as a form, you can export that and you can run reports on where the big problems are. Are the inkjet printers the problem and we should switch to laser? Should we switch to centralized printing? It'll give you the facts and figures to justify your future projects. And so often people will see the IT help desk and say, can we adapt it to a caretaker's one? Really, really easily. So again, get in touch. I can show you what that looks like. To be honest, we just strip out a lot of it and becomes just the ticketing system, but it works really well for that too. So I was going to put a Starship Enterprise in the background and have the Star Trek theme on here, but I didn't. I chickened out at the end because I knew I was recording this. But this is Frog Academy, the next generation. Because something really strange or really wonderful happened after we launched those 4 Academy products. We had a lot of schools get in touch with us and say, we think this is great, but we're doing this. Would you like it for the Academy? And so we have a whole collection of new products, new solutions that most of you won't have seen. Now, we haven't had a chance to go on the road and show everybody about. So this was my opportunity to show you then. So let me just switch over now to this browser, and hopefully you can still see what's going on. But I can go in here, and I'm going to start with the HR portal. And this was a lovely story. What happened here is we had a dozen schools after the Academy product, after the Academy launch, get in touch with us and say, would you like to take a look at our HR portal? And we looked and we saw somebody was doing something really well about details capture. Somebody else was doing something really well about absence monitoring, the health and safety. And we just took everybody's ideas and we mashed them together to make them work as a single platform that you can install. And the idea is this: anything that the HR office need to have, they can have need to have for staff members to get access to, they can have in this space. So I've got everything from accident reporting. So obviously I need to fill that out. If I fill it out on this form here, it goes off to the HR admin, and the HR admin have their own section in here where they've got information. They can see all of the different ones. If I go into there, you can see I've got all the different forms there. The big one, though, that I saw being used most was the idea of your details. So I might have a space for a car registration or emergency contacts. And if it's anything like what it used to be at my old school, that was something that was paper-based, that would be filled out once a year, given to the head secretary, and it would sit in the filing cabinet. And should anything happen, it could be dug out there. Far, far better for it to be captured electronically. So I can go into contact details, I can complete my information in here, and if necessary, I can edit it and update it later on. So I can keep all of my records up to date. I don't have to wait until the next year if I get a new phone or move house or so on. The other benefit, obviously, then you're not having to deal with handwriting and things like that, but you've got it central, and as I say, it can be updated. But one of the things that we did for this is we realized, well, if we're going to start collecting really quite personal information, the very essence of GDPR, then we need to add on an additional security setting. And I'm just going to demonstrate that now. Now, if you go to Frog Academy/training, you will find we have guides on all of this stuff, including what I'm about to show you. So I'm just going to point out that it exists here now. And if you want to find out more about it, then go to there or get in touch. But if I click on this access control button, I can say, well, let's say staff can only view their own submissions. So instead of having access to everybody's form entries, I'm going to limit it so that they can only see their own. And doing that, saving that, updates the security. So that's actually going off to the database and putting a lock on that data. Everything that you see in Frog comes from the database and displays that way. But that level of security is new, and we added it because of the HR portal. Oh, I should just point out. Then we've also got all the other fun things like fun things. You can have the HR. You can have all the policies and documents connected with human resources. You can have information directly there for for pensions. And if you've got anything around any offers for staff and so on, they can be built in. Health and safety and well-being. You know, who are the fire wardens? If you've got an emergency, if something's going on, and you need to very quickly find out who the fire wardens are, or more likely the first aid. Having that information really easy to access within Frog is handy. And then there's nothing wrong with also having somewhere for the votes on where we're going to have the Christmas party. We had a virtual one this year, so it'll obviously be different. But it's nice to have a space where people can go, and it's not all about forms. So that was the HR portal. Now, the next one came directly from Greenshaw and Greenshaw High School. And George got in touch and said, we've just prepared something with our careers teachers that, as our understanding is, every school now needs to have, and it's a career action plan. And when George showed me the career action plans, I said, I love your careers help. Could I take that as well? And he was more than happy to share that too. So I'm going to actually come back round to the CV builder, but we've got in a space here for all the information that your careers office need. So instead of having to be just a whole set of pamphlets, you can have direct links to everything about, with websites for specific careers, what to do in a gap year. But the career action plans was what George was really wanting to share because he saw the power and potential here. And if I just open it, every student gets their own copy. It's an e-portfolio system again. And in here, we've got some forms that are centrally collected. So the students at Greenshaw fill out their information here, their academic background, what are their subject options that they've chosen, what are their predicted grades, this is what you told us about this, because they can add it on multiple times, your goals and aspirations, what you're going to collect, and what are you wanting to do. But then if I jump over to the action plan, this then becomes unique for each student. And this is where they would sit down with their tutor or careers advisor, and they would come up with a plan of how they're going to achieve those goals and aspirations. We've embedded some of the links for sixth forms and colleges and so on. But then the big one is the My Understanding buttons. So after the students have had their careers advice, after they've sat down and created their action plans, after they've gone through everything, they can let the careers officer know, and only the careers officer, do they understand their options? And so they can come on here, and if they're still confused, if they're not sure what they should do, they could click on, I don't understand my options. And if I now close this down, what it does is it using the set keyword button, which is an action button, a widget, the careers officer can get a list of every student who is struggling, and they can see that there, and they can therefore arrange for our second consultations and intervene and talk to them there. They can also get a list of everyone who's unsure, and they can then see everybody's in here as well, so students who understand. So what we're trying to do is make it really simple for the students to communicate without necessarily having to have those initial meetings. They can just declare it that way. Now, I am running behind, and there's lots of things I need to show you. So I'm going to talk very, very briefly about, I'm just going to say thank you very much to Martin Salisbury from North Lakes, who showed us their GDPR system. So any bit of information, any data breach that might happen, that has to be audited once it's reported. Martin has provided this, and it's included in here, and includes his training, his course that he prepared as well to share with staff. We had a lot of schools have a quick look at the or saw the IT help desk and said, we could use something like that for finance. So we put together a finance portal where you can do everything from submit purchase orders. So you download the school's purchase order, you fill it in here and you submit, and then you can track the progress of that purchase order. And you could even go so far as to say, my order has arrived. And it's everything a finance office needs to do online, it needs to do. So instead of everybody having to traipse over to the finance office to collect a form, to take it back, to fill it in, to take it back and forth, it can all be done electronically. So especially on schools with large campuses, this can be a really useful way of doing that. And the last one I want to show you in this section is we started working with a few schools around the idea of we've got so many tools like the site timeline and Frog Snap that actually they mimic the social media that's out there at the moment. And rather than staff going off and creating a Facebook group, which we know they really shouldn't do and it can make a lot of people uncomfortable, what about making a site look like Facebook and having all of that interaction? So I've got my public page here, but if I click into members only, then I've got my private members area where I can have polls and I can have forums and so on, all for just the people in that group. And we took that idea and we created an Instagram style gallery. I should have a case study for you in a couple of weeks of a school who's using this. This is a really nice option. And even a school internal Twitter. So it's amazing what happens when you take the concept of something that already exists, that people are very comfortable using, and you then take Frog and make it look like that thing. People don't need training on it. They just get it. They get the concept of it. You're not introducing something different to them. They're becoming familiar, or you're showing them how you could use Frog to achieve that same sort of thing. And so you can create this social media style interaction. And I've got some lovely stories about how this is already being used. And I would share them with you, but I really want to show you a couple more things before we go. So the next thing I want to do is talk about what we've been doing for a couple of years now with all of our training materials and where we're getting to with this. So if you go to frogeducation.com/community, you will find a training link on there, and you will find we've got a whole bunch of videos all about most of the different systems in Frog, although it's an ongoing process. But we've now taken it a bit further, and we've got a system for workplace education called Frog Courses. And that's starting to be rolled out to industry, and people are working through it's different to Frog Learn. It's its own tool, but we're using that now for our training materials, and we're slowly building those up. Now, both this section and the next section, they've sort of been a little bit derailed by COVID, in that, you know, everybody's priorities are changing. So I don't want to name the school who are just starting to test this with us. But the idea is that we could get all of your staff a login for this training platform and give them the opportunity to work through courses themselves. And this is what it looks like. So in theory, this will be it when it's all set up. And I'm an admin, so I've got everything published. But I can go in and I can check out the catalog, where I can see all of the available materials. You as an admin will be able to have your own account on here, where you'll be able to monitor your teacher's progress through any training that's going on, and we can set some things as mandatory. So obviously, I would say Introduction to Frog will be mandatory for everybody, but the homework on Frog, you might say, can we just have that for teachers? Every course you pass will give you an award. And as I say, you can also monitor what's going on. But if I show you what one looks like, and you'll start to see the differences with regular Frog. If I open up Introduction to Frog, we've got a linear tool here. And in here, I've got my introductions and my explanations, and I've got some sites linked in. But I've got these barriers, and I have to actually complete the barrier. I have to complete the tasks above the barrier to unlock the next task. So there's no point getting somebody to work through site rules until they've learned how Frog works for navigating and how to create sites in the first place. And if I click into it, you'll start to recognize we've got some of the similar things. We've got a site here set in presentation mode. And if I go next, we've got our first video. But rather than just stick to videos, I've then got a hotspot widget. And I want everybody to sort of learn about what's in the hotspot before it moves on. And there's multiple interactions in here. What I've tried to do with this is replace a lot of the videos with other forms of interaction, hopefully to get everyone to learn in their own way. And if I just close that down, There's even elements where you will have to submit links and files and so on, so that for approval before you can move on. So that's Frog training, and that's something that I'm really quite excited about. I think we'll take everyone and get everyone quite involved in doing things in a different way. Now, I mentioned COVID, and so the next set of things I want to talk about are what I've been calling Frog Academy Plus, and the plus stands for Frog Code. And the COVID link there was that we've been spending this year working with schools, trying to come up with different ways to get them the information they need. And the first one, and this is available for you right now, is assignment reporting. So what I was saying earlier about the training and some of the other ones in here is that I don't want to attach schools to them, but assignment reporting is slightly different, and I will, because this came from 2 schools with very specific needs, and then lots of other people have already started to benefit from them. If I go to assignment reporting, it started with Kennett School saying they were very concerned about were children how did they know that children were logging in? Well, we showed them all the analytics. And then how did they know that the students were actually opening and engaging in their assignments? So we came up with this Frog Code tool, which we call the Open Assignments Report. And I can set some dates in here and click List Open Assignments. And it will go off and list every student in year 8, because that's what I've just searched for the 2 dates I've set. And it will show me how many homeworks they had assigned and how many they haven't opened. So I can scroll down here and I can see, obviously this is a demo platform, so it's quite bad. But here we go. Ruby has had 13 set, but hasn't opened these, but she's opened some. So I know that she's engaging to an extent. So she's probably not the one I'd focus on, certainly not compared to James. But then Winston Churchill came to us and said that they had another challenge. It was all very well to know if they were opening the assignments, but they had a few students who'd figured out that they could hit the submit button on their homework, get it off their to-do list, and not actually have the homework completed. And they know that teachers can go in and see the assignment reports, but for pastoral teachers and so on, they needed to have a little bit, they wanted that overview. So here the assignment activity hand-ins, snappy name, will list all of the homeworks that a student has had. It will highlight if they handed it in late, and it will also highlight if they didn't complete the number of activities. So this site is all wrapped up as a single solution that, again, on request, you can get installed. It's got direct links to the assignment monitor and the reporting application, and guides to both of those as well. So again, you might be comfortable with it, but if you're giving this to heads of year or pastoral leaders, then they've got that information directly at hand. And as I understand it, it's gone down very well, both in those 2 schools and in lots of others that we've been doing as well. I mentioned the Careers Hub a little earlier, and one of the things that we were experimenting with and helping a school out with was the idea of a curriculum vitae generator, a CV generator. So I've got a form here in Frog, and if I now click, and you can see I filled it out once and it's got my information, and if I now click Print Your CV, it sends me to another page in Frog, makes it look different, formats all the information from that form, and if I now click print, it will give me a printed out copy. And there we go. So I could hit print on there, and it's perfect for students to just work through and change, and the careers officer can again have all the CVs all in one place and keep an eye on them. So as your first CV, I think it's really quite useful. Now, I'm very aware of my time and I'm running out, so I'm literally going to have to fly through these next ones. The next one is what we are calling policy compliance. And again, this uses Frog Forms. But as a member of staff, I can log in and I can see that I have 4 forms I need to complete using this Frog Code widget. And I've accepted this staff acceptable use agreement and the staff laptop agreement. Let's have a look at safeguarding. And here's a safeguarding policy embedded in the page. So I can click through and I can read through that. It's 39 pages, so it's going to take me a while. But when I've done so, I can click this form here and click submit. I agree to the school policy. I have read the safeguarding policy. Now, the person in charge of staff compliance in your school can come over to this page and they can see all the forms that are here. And if they go to safeguarding and hit reset there, sure enough, they can see me there. But we've also got another frog code widget called Who Has Filled In My Form? And if I pop in admin, because I'm logged in as an admin profile, and click check submissions, it will list every member of that group. And if I scroll down, I can see the one tick of the one person who's filled it in, which was me, was today at 9:35. So the school who came up with this idea, they've been derailed with everything else that's going on. They've not had a chance for me, and I don't want to name them because it's not fair on them. But we've got this being experimented on in a school, and like a lot of the Academy Plus products, if you'd like to help us develop them, then please get in touch. Use that form. Chris will be bringing up a link for you in a couple of minutes. But that's something that I think has got some legs to it, but we need to make sure it works and does the job that we're saying it can do, which brings me really nicely and slickly onto a parents' evening booking system. This is another frog code widget interacting with our forms. So I've got in here an admin area, and I've got a template form for 10-minute meetings. And I've got a 15-minute meeting template form. And if I go to the teacher appointments and click on my own name, the widget does two duties. It detects that I'm logged in as an admin or staff and shows me which children I'm going to have meetings with at which times. For parents, it will show them their appointments in here. And it picks that up by reading the form information. So I pop in my child's name, and then you can see I've already got bookings happening, and I can't book 5:15 because that's already booked. I can't book 7 o'clock. If I jump over to Claire's here, you can see, again, Claire has different ones grayed out. Now, the widget picks up those forms. Has got a little refresh icon in there, which will go off and get that information. So it's something that we've got being used in a school under experiment conditions. They're testing it. I think that this solves most problems. And being a frog form, there's nothing stopping me going in. And if I go into Claire's and saying, right, actually, let's just get rid of that one. They made a mistake with that. So I've got the admin controls too. And because it's all frog form templates as well, I can make changes. So if I want to build in a break in the 10-minute slots, if I want to give everybody half an hour off at 6, I just get rid of those options before I do all my duplications. So it's something that, as I say, I'd like to get people to help me with to test out. Which brings me on to a rewards solution. Again, we started using frog forms and it became a bit difficult to use there. So instead, this uses frog code and the data store, and I can select any school, any group, list the students, it lists them out here, and I can give Alex a point, I can check on Aaron's points and it will show those back to Aaron. I've built in some reporting tools and things like that. But the big thing that I became aware of early on is everybody calls their rewards something different. So I've got a terminology section in the settings here, and I can call this whatever I want, house points, credits, merits, whatever. But because it's going into the data store, what I also did is when you add a reward point on for a student, it also adds it on to their house. So I then get an interactive, not interactive, but a dynamic updating house points widget as well. So these are very early, and I was making changes to this just yesterday. But I think, again, that there's some power here. And if anybody would like to help me develop these so that we could actually later on produce case studies and ribbits and show other schools how it's being used, please get in touch. And you can do that by going to frogeducation.com/join academy. And one of the options in there is, I would like to help Frog develop one of these products. And just like magic, Livestorm's really good for that stuff, isn't it? Click on that link and you can get directly to it. Lucy, I'm all talked out and I need a quick sip of my coffee, but hopefully everyone found that informative. Oh, you're muted. Lucy, you're muted. Oh dear. Right, Lucy. Let me just. Looks like Lucy's having. Yeah, it wouldn't be live if we didn't have some level of technical problem. Let's see if that's going to work now.
Hey, I'm back.
Hey.
I'm back. Just like that. It is magic. So, like everybody else is having gremlins in their PCs, I think. Just during that session, my settings decided to find a microphone that just didn't exist. So I'm back. You can have a sip of something to drink. Graham, I said just go over on that because the chat has been alive with people watching that. So I think that's been really useful. And actually, from seeing the chat going on, I think it'd be really useful for us to be planning out some webinars related to some of those solutions. And if we just look at the poll right now, the poll is telling us that the audience wants to see more practical webinars. So I think that's what we will go for.
Sounds like a plan.
There's people that are going to need time to watch this again and digest everything that you've said. So we will make sure that the video goes out to all of you post-event. It normally takes a couple of days for the team to just sit there and knit it all together. We'll get that out to you. And then what we'll do is we'll ask you in priority order, where do you want us to start with running some webinars in the new year? And then we will start running a load of webinars for you. So this section now is about meet, share and learn. And I am aware that we haven't got a huge amount of time, but you all seem quite chatty. Has anybody got anything they want to share with us? We've been running real world learning series throughout the summer. Oh, that's very flashy. Yeah.
I'll be back in a second.
Yeah. So we've been running real world learning series, and what that's been is schools from across the globe have been sharing their stories, their ideas, their anecdotes with us, with you. In fact, there is even a white paper written on some of those stories. And there's a few of you here today. So I know we've got Finton House here. We have a British School Paris here that have shared their stories. There's been lots and lots of really, I think, is Matt Holly here from River Tees Multi-Academy Trust. They've all shared some absolutely fantastic stories, even down to some very simple things like having to change just the way that they were working. Andy McDonald-Bowyer from Davidson High in our last event shared that at the start of the summer holidays, there were 14 different methods of feeding back on student work to the parents. And of course, parents were getting really confused, students were getting really confused. So they scrapped everything and went just for very basic frog feedback. But stories around having to identify the technical abilities from teachers, students, parents, governors, and trying to find something that actually worked for everybody. So just on your screen now is a link to the real world stories, which is online. You can reach that from the main page of the Frog Education website. So please go back on there. I know, who we got? Frog is amazing. Oh, so's Graham, pretty much.
That's very nice.
So we can go back to some stories on there. Graham, have you got any stories? I think it's really nice. If we haven't got people in the chat, it's really nice for you and Claire and people that have been out on the ground to share some of the things that they've seen.
What I've really liked about, well, like's the wrong word, but it's been so inspiring that the way schools have come up with lots and lots of different ways of using frog and coping. And that real world learning blog was a great way for us to capture that material. And it was everything, things that I just never considered. And using frog, we had schools teaching us. One of the first ones that came out was the idea of, teachers were needing to set work and they were wanting the students to work in their exercise books as usual. So what they did, and it was Mayflower High School, got the children to, the students to take photos of their work that they'd written in their workbooks and send it in via Frog Snap as feedback, or to the feedback application within the assignments tool. So there you had handwritten work being photoed, sent to the teacher, complete digital air break. There was no contamination going on. Teachers were then acting the work, which was then going back to the students. And it was just a really simple approach. And we now roll that into our training and tell everybody about it. But it was entirely from a school reaching out to us to say, look what we're doing. So
I think another one. Yeah, I think another one is e-portfolios has really made a comeback. So e-portfolios was something that was around years ago and then has come back. And I know on the chat, on the channel today, we have the Canterbury School from the Canary Islands who have certainly gone along that route for their younger years. And they've really been putting their e-portfolios. And I know if Claire's available, it'd be really good if Claire, one of our head of training, if she could pop on stage, because I know she's got a lovely story from Singapore that she'd like to share. And there's been, that's kind of why we've got a lot going on today around e-portfolios and the fact that people are having to isolate workbooks or find better ways to engage with parents and get that feedback out instantly. Hi Claire, how are you?
I'm good, thanks Lucy, how are you?
I'm good. So I know you've been working very, very closely with Brighton College in Singapore, and they have a really good story to share.
But they've been amazing. I mean, to consider that they've actually started a new school during this pandemic, one of their priorities was maintaining that contact between the parents and the children. So everybody knew what was going on both in school and at home. So again, we're going to go through the concept of e-portfolios later on in the webinar. But basically what they had was they had an idea for a site for each year group. Using the using the e-portfolio functionality, you can then replicate that site for each child. So in order for the child to be able to interact with both the teachers, but also parents as well, that e-portfolio had a number of different sections on it. So the first section on a page was, I think, what they called My Best Work. And this allowed the children to actually capture work that they'd been doing. It might be an exercise they'd done or a picture or an activity that they captured, and they can flag that up into their e-portfolio so their teacher can see that and the parents can see that. Again, it's emphasising the fact that that piece of best work doesn't have to be a finished piece of work, but the children can actually comment around that as to why they believe that is a really good piece of work, and they can then share that with a wider audience, the parents and the teachers. And inside that area, they've actually developed it so they've actually got it sectioned off into different subject areas. So the child can actually put something in there that replicates a particular subject area or an aspect of learning. So really quite organised, but it allows them to gather a wealth of information and evidence that they can share with the teachers and also with the parents. Another area that they looked at was, you can call it whatever you want to, My Learning Journey, My Learning Journal. But this is sort of a way for child again to record what may well be happening both in school and out of school. It can be very much down to the teacher to put that out there as well. So you can decide on what level of interaction you have with different parts of your class, because these are broken down into class groups. And then further on from there, one of the aspects that it really started with was My Reading Record. So a child can actually almost do a book review, depending on the age of that child, as to what they've been reading, what they enjoyed about what they've been reading, and post that so that the teacher can see that. And also the child's parent, or whoever the e-portfolio is shared with, they can also see that as well. The last couple of ones, just mentioning sort of around what they've been doing with the e-portfolio, is they've looked at things called, they have their Pelican Pathway, which is a little bit of a way of recognising what the children have been doing. They have a point system. And that would allow the teacher to feed back to children where they've done really well with something, so they can record that information. I think the last two tabs that they had on there, so it's quite a really practical e-portfolio section. One of them was the message board, and the message board means that the children can potentially message each other in class, or the teacher can message them as a whole. And the message functionality, the wall functionality, I know has been really, really popular, especially with a lot of our primary schools. And I do remember a long time ago, when I introduced the wall to a primary school over here in the UK, one of the teachers had actually just tried it out one evening, and they'd put the some of that standard text, what is it, lorem ipsum, I think they'd typed in there, and they'd left it there. I just thought they know what it looks like, and came back in the morning, and they'd actually had 6 children in year 6 trying to work out and define what that piece of text meant, and they really enjoyed it, and they actually asked the teacher if they could have some more. So, you know, there's all sorts of different ways of pulling this forward and interacting with your teaching group. And I think the last thing just to mention in that e-portfolio was, again, it was a really lovely way of being able to push resources through to the children specifically for that particular year group. So there were links through to documents that the teacher wanted the children to be able to access, but also the parents being able to access as well. So it was literally a case of you log in, and go straight to your e-portfolio or your child's e-portfolio and see exactly what's going on, and it gives you that engagement opportunity, so especially during the pandemic that we've got and learning happening in different places and different guises.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. We're seeing some absolutely fantastic uses of e-portfolios, of getting getting work out there, of reading clubs, of sharing curriculum, of getting the parents to take photographs and evidence and putting them online. So it's fantastic use of really simple use of technology. And I think one of the things has predominantly been that technology is used really well for teaching and learning in secondary years, but actually for early years, schools have always struggled and said, well, what's the point in that? But actually, in the last few months, the point has been just the fact that you can engage either within the class or at home, no matter where your child is. You've got that visibility as a parent. Yeah. Okay.
There was a lovely story there. Jodie's just asked me a question, and actually Martin has the answer to it, but I've just tried to invite Martin on and I'm getting invitation not available. So really sorry, Martin. I'm going to log in as you and show you and talk through that process on your platform, if that's all right. But yeah, Jodie, you were asking, can the staff list be pulled into the random name selector? And the random name selector is set so it's meant to be for you to use with students. And Martin was using it until that change came in, was using it for a random acts of kindness button. And so let me see, I'm just getting logged in now. And if I'm not going to be able to find it, of course, on Martin's site. So I'm going to jump over to the HR portal and do it that way. This is the thing when you do things live, you don't rehearse them. You do rehearse the things you can rehearse. If I go to the HR portal, because I've got it set up there, and I go to random acts of kindness, this is a variation on the random name selector set for staff. So the way, and Martin was the instrumental person, the architect behind this. And what it is the senior team log into Frog, go to the random acts of kindness and look up 2 members of staff. And then they go to those members of staff and just check in on them on a random basis. And that's the whole point of it. So yes, absolutely. There is a random name selector Frog code widget that will allow you to set it for staff, and then you can perform those searches. And I just thought I'll show them both together in this environment that way. So thank you very much for giving us that inspiration, Martin. And I'm sorry that we couldn't get you logged in.
I think that's really good, Graham. Has anybody else got any other? Well, we've got Claire and Graham. Has anybody else got? Oh, and Martin's saying it's on every class page too. Has anybody else got anything for Claire or Graham that they either want to hear more about or or just a quick question. There's been some lovely comments in here about our support team, so I'll make sure that there's been some specific shout outs in there, but I'll make sure that all of your comments get passed in. George, I want to say that hi, George.
And I saw a comment earlier about the Santa. It is Santa legs, and I think it's meant to come down from a chimney, but I was improvising, so it's not. He's trying to get down behind the set of drawers.
I think there's also been some really nice school dashboards shared as well. I don't know if Chris could put up a screen from
Cumtawi. Sean came onto the forums and he'd found some code, and hopefully we'll see it in a second. But he's made his staff dashboard have dancing lights. Now, we've been sharing code for years now about how to get your platform to snow, but the dancing lights were the next feature. And what was lovely is he posted it on the forums because it didn't quite work, and Paul Conkey jumped on and showed him the code to do it. So it's an HTML. You just drop that code directly into an HTML widget on your staff dashboard, and it will put the lights onto your frog for you. So this was just Sean having a play around with some of the different things you can do with the HTML widget. All the code is available on that forum. I'll dig it out after this and post it as one of those pop-up links.
But everybody wants lights, and Graham.
Yes, I can see it's gone crazy.
So how is the easiest way to get this installed on these platforms? Because I've got a feeling that they're not going to want to wait.
No, it's available right now. I'm gonna dig out that link and paste it so that you can just so you can just copy it and paste it in. So give me a second. Sean's actually now gone further and on a separate one, and I possibly shouldn't say this because it's giving me more work to find the link for. But here we go. I've found the forum post, but he's gone further, and now he has the background randomizing every time you log in. So every time you log in, you get a different background picture. What I really like about it, though, is that whole collaboration element that Sean was providing. You know, he found this code, it didn't quite work, another school fixed it, and now everybody's going to benefit from it. So let me just send a call to action is what it's called.
So what are the actual instructions to install this?
I'm just very quickly calling it lights. You click on that link, it will take you to the forum post where the HTML is something like the third post down. You copy that code, you put it into an HTML widget on your dashboard, and that's all you need to do.
Brilliant. Unless anybody has any further questions, I think I'm going to leave this section on a positive note so we can lead nicely into the next positive section. We've got one. No, it's just love it. Thank you. Okay, so if anybody gets stuck, then you know how to get hold of us. We will talk you through getting the snow or the lights or the randomizers set up. So I expect this afternoon and the rest of the week might be busy doing those for you if you haven't got the time to do it yourself. So it's fine, you know where we are. So Claire, thank you very much for joining us, and Graham. So I think we are going to be handing over to our Deputy MD, Steve Holt. If it all works well, then hopefully Steve will be joining me on stage in a minute and talking about the next section, which is called Going Live. And this is something that is going to be available to you all in the spring. And as if by magic, Steve has appeared. Hi, Steve. Right, I'm going to jump off and I will rejoin as soon as you give me the command to come back online again. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Lucy. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. Fantastic. So as Lucy said, my name's Steve. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the Deputy Managing Director of Frog. And although I work on a variety of projects and different products, one of my main specialities really is Frog Play. And so I've been asked just to give you a little bit of a sneak peek of an exciting new feature that we've got that we're calling Frog Play Live. It's still in development at the moment. We're going to be shipping it to you in the spring, but the development is done. We're doing some testing and just knocking off a few of the rough edges, but we think that it's very exciting to show you in the lead up to Christmas and just give you a bit of a hint of what's coming in the new year, which is very much the emphasis of this session, really. So what I'm going to do, there is obviously the questions that you guys are familiar with. I will do my very best to answer the questions as I see them coming up. In case there's any that I either don't see or if there's not quite time, by all means ask them as I'm going along. If I don't get to answer them now, I'll certainly make sure that we've got answers for you. In worst case, we can post them up on the community, etc. later. But just to give you a quick history, we have recorded a video. I'm going to talk you through the video and how it works, but I'll just give you a quick bit of background to it first, if that's okay. Sorry, I've got a first question already. Where's my Christmas jumper? Apologies, I'm on brand today, but there we go. But just to give you a little bit of history, for those of you that don't know, I'm sure most of you do, Frog Play is a games-based quiz engine. And so it's a subscription that you can get to add into your Frog VLE. Many of you on the session have already got it, I do know that. We've got over 300,000 curriculum win questions in there. The students can answer those questions, they can be assigned as homeworks, they can play games. But this new feature is something deliberately that we designed for classroom activity. And the idea is that the students are all answering the questions, but they're competing against each other live in an event, including if it's shown on a whiteboard. The students are all accessing on their device. We're probably expecting mainly mobile, could be a tablet, could be a desktop, but that's the feature that we're trying to create. In doing the testing, although it works brilliantly for the high fluency and low stakes quiz element and doing it in a classroom activity, we know that it's a crazy time at the moment, and throughout the development, the world has changed. So actually, you can also use this if your students are remote from you, so they're all working from home. You could do this with a blend where some students might be in the class in front of you, some students are at home. You could do it for things like booster sessions, so they don't all have to be in the same class. So far, our biggest test has been 400 users doing the same quiz, but we don't know where that will go to. So you could have multiple schools using it potentially. You could also have multiple classes doing booster sessions, revision sessions, those kind of things. So very wersatile tool. We're going to go into that and show you what it looks like and how it works. So we've got a short video, which is going to appear on screen in just a moment. It shows you the teacher view, but it also shows you the student view. And then hopefully some of you will be getting your hands on it as early as we can next year. So Graham can start the video for me. I'll talk you through it a little bit. So schools that have got Frog Play, you'll see that when you have your standard Frog Play, you will get an extra action now that you can click on from the menu to create a basic session. So you can use this with any of the Frog Play quizzes. You can create your own quizzes, you can use school quizzes, you can use one of our quizzes. For this particular video, I've just created a very simple one that we used in the lesson the other day. You can say how many questions they've got, and you can see various settings and things that you can put on there. You can have time limits. You can have with games, without games, showing the leaderboard, not showing the leaderboard, but you get some basic setup things. But any of the quizzes in Frog Play will work with this straight away. What that does is it creates you effectively a room for your students to go into. So it gives the teacher a code. And what the students do is you read that code out to them, or you can send that code to them in the system. They type in that code. And what you'll see on the right-hand side there, a couple of students have joined so far. Third student's going to join in. So as a teacher, you know when your class are there. Easy if they're all in front of you, but if they're all as a webinar or they're all working from home, then obviously you'll see the students' names and you know who to chivvy along. And now in my video, you'll see that all 3 students have joined. So I'm ready to launch the quiz. So I start the session. As I say, we actually designed this where the questions would appear on a whiteboard, but just in case the student is accessing from home, we've added in some extra functionality as a result of everything that's changed, where they can see the question on their screen as well, so they don't all have to physically be with you. The teacher gets an indication of who's answered. I might have set a time limit, but I haven't on this particular one. But I get to see how long it takes the students to answer. And then when I'm ready, or when the time is up, I can reveal the answers to the students. The students get a bit of feedback to know whether they got it right or wrong. I, as a teacher, get the feedback to know who got it right or wrong. And because this is a game, and because we're trying to engage people to answer the question first and to answer the question correctly, they get a series of points. Now, forgive that this is test system, so the names aren't particularly good, and we haven't created avatars for the users. But at that point, I can bring up the league table, and it's all about inspiring that competition. We want the students to answer correctly. We want them to answer well. And So the more questions they answer correctly, they see their name up in lights and their little avatar is up on the screen for everybody to see. So when the teacher's ready, they can go on to the next question. Maybe they had to pause for a second to talk through some of the question, but when they're ready, they can move on. Students get to answer. Now, I believe on this one, the student actually gets it wrong, deliberately, I'm assured. And then when all the students have answered, again, the teacher can close the question when they're ready. Students get some feedback. As you can see on the student screen at the back there, the student actually gets shown what they answered and what they should have answered. But again, perhaps the teacher can pause if a lot of people get that wrong. They can talk their way through that, and they can give a bit of feedback, etc. So all of the different question types work. Although these happen to be multiple choice, all the question types, we've got 13 question types in Frog Play. You can have free text where they have to type it in. We can have drag and drop. We have fill in the blanks. All the different questions will all work fine in Frog Play. This quiz just happens to be a nice simple one that we happen to have some multiple choice in there. So don't worry, we're not going to show you all 10 questions, but just to get a bit of a flavour for how things work. So again, I can bring up the leaderboard whenever I want, every now and again when I want to inspire people, particularly if there's a bit of a sort of a runoff going for second and third, and I can keep bringing that up. But what we've done there is we've actually had a bit of a skip. There were only 10 questions chosen. I would actually recommend normally 20 questions is a good length of quiz, but we've only chosen 10 for the sake of this testing. So we've skipped to the 10th question. Everybody gets to answer this last one, and then we'll show you what happens from there. So on the last one, I can bring up the lead table again. We give them the chance for bragging rights to know who actually won the competition. At that point, as a teacher, when we've been through the quiz, whether they be at home or whether they be in front of me, I can decide to close off the quiz at that point. The students get to see their final places. Again, we can congratulate the winner at that point. So as I say, all the question types work. You can use all of our quizzes. You can use it in front of you, use it on mobile. But as you can see, quite a simple system to use, nice and engaging for the whole class. The advantage of this system is obviously you can use all the quizzes that you've already created that you would normally use in your sites or that you would allocate out as homework. But also, because it is Frog Play, the richness of all of our reports and all of our analytics also kick in. So although the students thought that they were just playing a quick throwaway game, competing against each other, motivation, trying to win at that particular time, what it's actually been doing is been tracking everybody's answers as all Frog Play quizzes do. So after the session, as a teacher, I can now go in and open up the reporting engine that's all part of the Frog Play quiz system, which I would just do as standard as a teacher. I would open up the Frog Play app and it will show me here my latest activities. That live session is on there and I can get the standard Frog Play quiz report. So I can see all the individual students at the top there. I can see the questions that they've answered. But most importantly, perhaps at that point, and I'll just go and just pause the video for a second if that's okay, we can bring up our standard report, which is the matrix report, which a lot of our teachers have told us that this is a great way of showing who answered what. And so normally you'd see the full class there, but as I say, you could have multiple classes. You can see all of the questions across the top, and I could see at a glance how everybody was doing. So if Graham plays the video from there, what I did notice is question 4 and question 9, quite a few people got that wrong, in which case, again, as a teacher, what I could do, either at the end of the lesson or perhaps at the start of the next lesson, I could bring up those questions that multiple students had got wrong. We can maybe go through what the answer was. I could view students' answers and I could see if there's any common misconceptions or common areas that people are answering incorrectly. And we could go through and see what we can do. So in a nutshell, short but sweet, hopefully. I say it was deliberately designed just as a very short sneak peek of what was coming up. If anyone has got any questions, I can see the questions have been going crazy, but lots of questions about how to get snow and flashing lights working. But if anyone has any questions about Frog Play Live, or you'd like to be one of the first schools that have a look at it for us in the new year and help us do the testing, give us a little bit of feedback for us, then that would be fantastic as well.
So Steve, how have you seen this used so far? Just a couple of questions, because I know it's being tested at the moment and we have got some engagement going.
We have. So in transparency, we've tested it here internally. We've been having some fun with it, doing some of our own little lockdown quizzes and what have you. We've also been testing this in Malaysia with some webinar sessions that they've been running where their students have been at home. So far, say we've had 400 students all competing. That particular example was across school. So we had lots of different students running some after-school booster sessions, as we would probably call them in the UK, but you could call them revision sessions or whatever you would name those. And so you had a teacher leading them. Teacher had created a quiz. They shared it. They made it publicly available. And they allowed students from different classes to join in after school. And say great feedback so far with that one.
And you want some early adopters?
We will be looking for some schools to trial it probably around sort of February, March time before it goes live to everybody. So yeah, that would be great. We can switch it on inside individual schools' platforms. You can use it with your own quizzes, or you can build some special ones. Say the kids can use their own devices or use the school computers. Go crazy with it. We want some people to tell us how well it works and what we need to do for the next evolution of it.
Well, you've got a Doncaster school there, a neighbour. And you've got somebody, you've got Barcelona. Any good to you?
Fantastic. Well, do you know, Ridgewood in Doncaster was our 4th ever school to get I Am Learning back in about 2008, I think it was. So Ridgewood is a school that I know very well. So absolutely, you can. We'd love to work with you guys. Barcelona. If you need me to pop out and train, I'll do all the usual cheesy lines of I'll come and show you it personally. But yeah, happily, we'd be looking ideally for about half a dozen schools that we can trial this with, just to get a good mix.
Okay, so what we will do then is we will reach out to everybody who's been here today first, and if you want to be an early adopter, we'll bring you on the early adoption program. And then after that, when are people likely to actually get it then, Steve? Because I know that's going to be the next question.
So we're saying spring at the moment. We're looking at what we're calling the Turing release, which is our next release. All the schools have just got the ear heart release. And so Turing will be going out sort of February, March time. At that point, that's probably when we're going to be hopefully putting this live, probably to some beta schools first. And then, as I say, we will switch it on. It won't be, you won't have to wait till Potter, as it happens, is the one after Turing, but I won't bore you with the details. Beatrix Potter, not Harry Potter. So as ever, influential people, sadly, no longer with us. That's the rule. So Beatrix Potter is after Turing, but you won't have to wait for a release anyway. It will go out in the Turing release. We can then switch it on when we're ready for schools. So probably around Easter, hopefully a good time for schools thinking about revision and consolidating where the school are at. Okay, so it's a good time to get your hands on it then. Absolutely, and just as a little bit of background, sorry, just to be a little bit of a history. The whole idea for creating I Am Learning actually came for this. When I used to work for Doncaster Local Authority, I used to run activities with kids trying to motivate them ready for the exams, whether they be SATs papers, but they be GCSE papers. And one way that I used to do that is I used to use voting systems to try to make it a little bit more interesting, particularly for groups of boys, if I'm honest. Little bright kids, CD borderline kids as it was back then, 4-5 borderline these days, I guess, just trying to motivate them just to do that extra bit. We knew the information was in there. We knew that they were bright. We wanted to motivate them. That's where the first idea for games came from. That's where the first idea for the product that we call I Am Learning came from. But now is the Frog Play. So I guess we've gone full circle in those 10 years. We're really excited about getting this back out there. But say hopefully around Easter, it is a good time to really be getting them, whether they're in front of you, whether they're at home, who knows what the world is going to be like, but just a great way to get the kids involved in trying some of these papers. Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much. I don't think there's been, will be interesting to use this. Oh, right. So George Bly is posted there. It'd be interesting to use this in our final assessment hour of the year. All students do this on iPad. So I know, George, you take loads of students off to a hall in a morning and you do a lot of testing and then you spend an hour of the next day in the dirt period or what have you, just bringing everybody up to like plugging those gaps. And I know you're using Frog Play for that. So I will link you up again. Well, you're already in contact. I'll speak to George. Yeah, not a problem. All right, I don't think there's any other questions there, Steve, so I'll let you go. Thank you very much for that. Thanks, everybody. Merry Christmas if I don't speak to him. See you. Right, so just to recap, the Frog Play Live, we will send out a message to you to get you engaged in the early adopters stage.
Graham is obviously going to make sure that he's got the snow code sorted out this afternoon. If any of you get stuck, then you can either contact Amber or Hello@, or any channels that you normally come through to us, and we will work with you to get that snow code sorted. What else did we talk about? We talked about how we are going to work with you better in 2021. So clearly, when the videos come out, we'd like you to, we'll send a list of all of the different Academy products, and we'll ask you which ones you want webinars on first and what other topics you would like webinars on. And I'm asking for the winner of the Widget the Bear competition. I'm just wondering if we could put the name into the channel so that we can have the winner of the Widget the Bear before I close this session. So really, I think that's pretty much it from me. We're going to take a very, very short break, just a few minutes, so that we can close down this, and then we can give Graham a chance just to reset his, get his laptop reset so that he can do the session with the e-portfolios. So unless anybody else has anything they would like, then I am just waiting for Rebecca to post the winner in this channel. Susanna Mackey, of course it's you, hi. So it looks like you're the winner, and the Widget the Bear will be coming over to you. Chris, if you could just put up the last slide for me, and then I will disappear for a few minutes and Graham will rejoin. So thank you again, everybody, for joining us today. And on behalf of myself, the customer success team, the support team, and everybody at Frog, we'd like to wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, have a fantastic break, well deserved, look after yourselves, and we'll see you for the next lot of events in the new year. Until then, hold fire if you would like your ePortfolios tutorial, but thank you very much. Bye.